Common Knowledge is brought to you by PureMTGO.com and InkedGaming.com. Use coupon code CCMTG10 at checkout for a 10% discount on all Inked Gaming supplies and accessories. You can support the show directly through Patreon at patreon.com/common knowledge.
This is the Common Knowledge Podcast. It's not about the cost, it's about the knowledge. Here are your hosts, Brandon Clark and Lobbert.
How's it going, everybody? This is episode 60 of the Common Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon, and joined with me, as always, is my trusty companion, Sean the Lobbert.
What's up, man?
Not a lot. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited for our topic and things it contains.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this topic. Today we're going to be talking about the recent top 8 from the MCQ at Magic Fest LA. And I think I got all that right. The MCQ was at the Magic Fest where the GP was at, but it wasn't part of the GP. It was at the Magic Fest. GPs are events that are held at Magic Fests. And from what I've been able to determine, nothing else really happens at Magic Fests except GPs.
Well, there's GPs and side events.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So I guess that's a distinction. Yeah.
I guess that's kind of a distinction. They've decided that so much goes on at a Grand Prix outside of the actual Grand Prix. We'll just call it a Magic Fest that encompasses all the festivities, the magic festivities that abound.
Like cosplay, what have you. Yes.
Yeah. It's a dumb name. So is Mythic Championship. But we're talking about the Mythic Championship qualifier that happened at the Magic Fest, where you could sign up for the Mythic Championship to qualify for the Mythic Championship qualifier. And if you won the Mythic Championship qualifier at the Magic Fest in Los Angeles, you could qualify to play in, I think, Mythic Championship London, which is a Mythic Championship in London that you could get to by winning the Mythic Championship qualifier.
You're trying to make it more confusing by going in circles.
I'm trying to make fun of Wizards' announcement because it's like a joke because they use the word mythic like 40 times in like a half a page announcement, and people are just like, this is a joke.
Whatever, I'm fine with it.
I don't know. It doesn't actually really affect me. You know, it's like one of those things that like doesn't have any bearing on the way I play Magic. I just think it sounds stupid. It's like add 1 mana. Like that bugs the hell out of me, but it really doesn't matter at all. But it bugs me.
Card of the Week.
This week you chose GEMPALM Polluter.
Yeah, you want to know how I chose this card?
How?
I was at MTG Top 8 getting the Top 8 deck lists, and when I was like, oh, we need a card of the week, I clicked over, and the very first card that I saw when I clicked over the page was GEMPALM Polluter. And I was like, all right, that's our card of the week. I'd literally never seen this card before today, and this morning I watched the professor's video about this zombies deck because I was just like, I'm gonna have to talk about this today and I have no idea about this deck at all. So I watched the professor's deck tech video about it, and that's how I learned what GEMPALM Polluter was. I had to go look it up because he didn't really say what it was. He just talked about like GEMPALM Polluter is one of the things that make the deck good, and I was just like, well, many Magic the Gathering players ask, what's GEMPALM Polluter? So I Googled it. And I was just like, that's interesting.
Huh. Well, I'm going to describe what it is. It is...
No, make them Google it.
No. We're not those people. GEMPALM Polluter is
You mean the single most popular Magic content producer in the world?
Yeah, we are nowhere near that popular, so we have to read the cards still. I also think it's different because, like, when somebody's listening to a podcast, they're typically busy or driving, and
yeah, no, for sure.
They would just flat forget, and I want them to have the information. So, GEMPALM Polluter is 6 mana, 5 and a black, for a 4/3 zombie, and its text box is way more important than any of that stuff.
Yeah, that sounds unplayable.
Yeah, it pretty much is. Nobody ever like really casts this. It has cycling for black, and it says when you cycle GEMPALM Polluter, you may have target player lose 1 life for each zombie in play. So basically, black, it replaces itself and does damage for every creature on the battlefield that you control, because everything you have should be a zombie if you're playing this.
It's kind of just like the deck's finisher, almost. Like, they're going to kind of nickel and dime you with weird little derps, and then it's kind of like Shaman of the Pack in like Modern Elves. It just comes into play and you take 9, take 8.
It's really on theme for the deck. I think we are going to be talking about it because there is a zombies deck in this top 8, was there not? But
yes.
that zombies deck has, I believe, well, I haven't seen it, but most of the ones I've faced and the one I've played has Grey Merchant of Asphodel, who's a zombie, and so that's leeching a bunch of life from their face. And then they have Shepherd of Rot, which you can just tap and both players lose life for each zombie you control. So this deck packs a lot of non-combat damage, and this just is a colorless, or not colorless, card neutral, uncounterable way to do a bunch of damage like that is pretty sweet.
I think that's one of its biggest pluses, right? Is that it's uncounterable because there's nothing that can counter abilities in Pauper. And the zombies deck also play a lot of good ways to like recur.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they do play recursion. So you don't have to have a lethal GEMPALM Polluter. You can like value Polluter them early on just to kind of cycle it, and then later in the game you can re-buy it and do it again for bigger.
There's enough things in the zombies deck that it's not really worth it to play the card unless you're getting something back from the graveyard. So if you GEMPALM Polluter for 0 and you just get a card, and then you can just grab it back the next turn, like do this turn 2 and then turn 3 you're grabbing it back, that's not the worst thing. It helped smooth out your deck a little bit.
Yeah.
So
it helps set up like lethal turns too. If you have 5 mana, late in the game, you can GEMPALM for 9 and then get it back and then GEMPALM again in the same turn and presumably have lethal. So
if you've essentially already lost the game, you can play it as a creature. If you're playing this as a creature, yeah, you've pretty much lost.
Yeah, something weird's happening. So that's the card of the week, GEMPALM Polluter. And we're going to kind of talk about the deck that this is in later on, because that was part of the top 8. And we probably won't go super deep again on GEMPALM Polluter, but we'll talk about the other things that synergize with him.
I just remembered 2 more things. One, I wanted to mention that this is a part of a cycle called like GEMPALM whatever, and only a portion of it is common. I know there's a goblin one that is uncommon. There's a soldier one that is common. The blue one is essentially unplayable. It's uncommon, and it makes wizards have flying or something like that. And I don't know if there's a green one or if just Krosan Tusker is the one that goes for green. I don't know either. Anyway, and then the other thing is I can't wait to sign these and send them to somebody.
I'm not signing the cards. All right, anyway.
Can I just sign them then?
I don't know. If they want us to sign their cards, we'll sign their cards.
They already want them. Everybody told me.
No one told you anything.
Come on. So you're getting like, what, 50 cents to $1 worth of cards in the mail that don't go in your deck. and you're like, what am I gonna do with these? And then they have signatures on them, and you're like, oh, these are kind of neat. Like, they have some sentimental value instead of just like some weird commons that go in a box. That's my thinking.
I guess that's fair. That's reasonable. I just don't. It just feels weird to me. I don't know. I don't know that I actually have a good reason other than that it just makes me feel weird. I don't think of myself as celebrity like you do, so I haven't made
not
it,
even really it.
I haven't made it big on YouTube yet, so
Neither have I. I haven't received a penny.
Oh my gosh, let's talk about this top 8.
Main topic.
Cool. So, Mythic Championship Qualifier Popper Top 8 to qualify you for Mythic Championship London. Should we start with 8th place and work our way down to first? Or do we start with first place and...
Let's start with 8th place. That's fine with me.
All right. Cool. 8th place, Zombies by John POGLODZINSKI. I doubt John listens, but if he does, I'm sorry if I butchered your name, and congratulations on your top 8.
Yeah, especially with this deck. You took something spicy. That's I think the greatest feeling there is.
I think that this is the deck list that Caleb Durward was streaming with, and so he kind of put it on the map for people before the tournament, and yeah, John picked it up and crushed it.
Okay, let's get into it. For lands, we have 19 swamps, a Bojuka Bog, and a Barrenmoor.
2 Barrenmoor.
Two Barrenmoor. My apologies. And then it has 24 creatures. Has 4 Carrion Feeder, 4 Festering Mummy, 3 of those GEMPALM Polluters, 4 GHOULRAISER. It's 3 mana, and it gets I think a random zombie from your graveyard to your hand. 4 Grey Merchants, a Shambling Goblin, and a SULTAI, and 4 SULTAI Emissaries. So a lot of ways to do 1/1/1 counter to something, and just food for your Carrion Feeders. So decent amount of removal. And then we have 13 instants and sorceries, 3 Chainer's Edict, 3 GHOULCALLER'S Chant. And are you familiar with GHOULCALLER'S Chant?
Yeah, it's a single black. It's a sorcery. It's the choose one of 2 options. Screw it. I'm going to look. Choose one of 2. Choose 1. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, or return 2 target zombies from your graveyard to your hand.
Yep. And then that does synergize with the next card. There's 2 nameless inversions. That's the instant that gives something +3/-3.
And it has Changeling.
Yeah, it's a Changeling, so you can get it back with everything that's looking to bring back zombie cards for even more removal. Then 3 Sign in Blood, 2 Vicious Offering, which is the 2 mana spell that you sacrifice a creature, or you may sacrifice a creature. It gives something -2/-2,
yeah.
But if you sacked, it's -5/-5, right?
Yeah, if you kick it by sacking the creature, you -5.
And then there was a Pestilence.
Yes.
And then, so the notable thing, I guess, I'm not going to go over every sideboard, but there are the 4 Shepherd of Rot in the sideboard. They didn't make the main deck, and that's I've dipped my toe into the water with this kind of deck, and that's kind of where they belong. They're not very great in the main deck. You need like resilient stuff. Do you think this deck holds up online?
I would think that it struggles against the Monarch matchup.
That's what I initially thought too. Yeah.
I'm looking at it, I'm thinking it probably has a good Delver matchup. Delver's only live removal spell is Echoing Decay. Because, I mean, all these creatures are black. And, like, foil seems really bad when they can, have GHOULCALLER'S Chant. I would just think, like, all their cards kind of, like, synergize so well together and gain so much value off of each other. I would just imagine that blue-black Delver in particular would struggle against this deck.
I want to say that it's probably closer to 50-50, or even that Delver is still favored just based on power level of that deck. Like there's a couple of more expensive spells that have less impact on the game, and trying to resolve Gray Merchants and Chainer's Edicts isn't very good. If you get flown over, that's tough, and you can dump an endless mass of bodies in front of a Gurmag Angler, but I can imagine a lot of scenarios where they've been denied a couple of spells, the Angler's attacking in, and they have very little to put up a fight with.
Okay.
That's where I'm at on here. I do think it's pretty cool, though.
Yeah. Talking about the sideboard, 1 Chainer's Edict, 4 Choking Sands, 2 Crypt Creeper. Sacrifice Crypt Creeper, exile target card from a graveyard. Why would you just not have, like, Relic? I mean, outside of this being a zombie, it's a 2/1 for 2.
This deck, it can't... I don't think you're looking to grind. I think that card being potentially aggressive, and then if you need it to do something, it doesn't exile your own graveyard.
Sure.
So I think it's just having a good plan and sticking to it. I think I would say Crypt Creeper is pretty good.
Okay. 3 Duress, 1 Pestilence, 4 Shepherd of Rot, and that rounds out the sideboard. You know, Choking Sands, obviously, Tron matchups, Boros matchups.
Mm-hmm.
The extra Pestilence is great. And so why, again, do you think that Shepherd of Rot should be in the sideboard?
If you're going against any kind of aggressive deck, you just flat never activate it. You've paid 2 mana for a 1/1.
You have to be ahead for this card to be even remotely good, and there's just a lot of aggression in Pauper, so sideboard.
Yeah, like with the percentage of our meta that is red based, and you can just lose out of nowhere. That's good.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Sweet. So that was Zombies by John Podlogzinski. Let's go look at 7th place, Tortured Existence by Paul Jacinto.
Let's skip the lands. There's a lot of them. There's a single Bojuka Bog, and then just 1/ofs, 2/ofs, lots of
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
1 Ash Barrens, 1 Barren Moor, 1 Bojuka Bog, 4 Forest, 3 Rot Farm, 4 Jungle Hollow, 7 Swamp, 1 Terramorphic Expanse, 1 Tranquil Thicket.
I guess I'll just go down this list real quick of their creatures before we talk about the deck. We've got 1 Carrion Feeder, 2 Crypt Rats, 3 Fume Spitters, 4 Golgari Brown Scales, 3 Grave Scrabblers, a Gurmag Angler, 1 Horror of the Broken Lands, 1 Liliana Spectre, 1 Peerless Mirror, 2 Spore Frog, 3 Stinkweed Imp, 1 Thought Picker Witch. That's right, I said 1 Thought Picker Witch, a Tilling Tree Folk, a Wickerbow Elder, and a Wild Mongrel.
I don't get it. Why did...
I mean, people playing Thought Picker Witch.
That card was really impressive on camera.
Really?
Like watching him go off with Thought Picker Witch, it would just lock games up.
Was this the game against Tron?
Yeah.
Okay. I would imagine in hyper grindy matchups like that, maybe it's a good way to just get run over and have someone be like, yeah, that can resolve. And you're just like, dang it. I'm not doing anything with that.
I mean, that's probably why there's 1. You know, like...
Yeah.
This is the toolbox deck, so why would you not have toolbox pieces for specific matchups? Like, you've kind of got everything. Like, you've got your Spore Frogs for aggressive matchups. You've got Thought Picker Witch for those slower, grindy matchups. Crypt Rats, Gurmag Anglers, a way to finish the game. You've even got... You've got all sorts of... you're like a main deck, Wickerbow Elder, like... This is just, you have access to virtually every card in your library, so you can get away with playing 1/ofs that are...
Yeah, like, you can always discard it to your Tortured Existence if it is that bad.
Yeah, it's always just fodder for Tortured Existence if you don't need it, so...
Okay, and then we've got 5 instants and sorceries. We've got 4 Commune with the Gods, and a Knot of the Bone. Those Knot of the Bones do a lot of work sometimes. And then we have 6 enchantments. We've got 1 Deadweight, 4 Tortured Existence, and a Vessel of Nascency. I see way more Tortured Existence in paper tournaments. I would say if you're going to do a paper tournament, pack more Graveyard Hate than usual.
I think that people are drawn to this deck. I think that a lot of Magic players like the toolbox nature of the deck. It's just like, it's one of those things too that I don't know what it is. New players in the format, it's just the deck they find out about somehow. Like, this was one of the first decks I built in paper. Like, if you remember, when I was messing around with Tilling Tree folks and stuff. You don't remember?
I don't remember that.
But my point, though, this deck is incredibly difficult to play with online. Is like the sheer amount of clicks. Like, I've never played it online, but like, I'm pretty sure that when you try to like loop Golgari Brown Scales, every time it hits the graveyard or whatever, it becomes like a new entity. So you can't just like yield to it or whatever to the gain life. So
no, well,
that's what I read on.
Yes,
that's what I read on Reddit about people who were talking about this deck online.
Let me see real quick how it's worded.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. But there's some weird stuff with this deck that just make it incredibly difficult to play online.
No, I think if you just always yield to the Golgari Brown Scale trigger, that it will always just go away or whatever. If it was like you may and you have to click yes every time, then that's the case when it would be like that. Anyway.
Okay, I want to know what these people were talking about, because someone on Reddit that I was reading when I was like doing research on these decks was saying that the reason people don't play it online is something with the yield. Yeah. Like, it's just a funny deck, and so like you can't. It just makes it something about this deck makes it like really hard to play online with the way the rules work or something. I don't know what they were talking about. I can't remember for sure.
It's probably just that you have to click through it every time and not just be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 black mana. I do this 6 times. I gain 2 life every other time, so that's going to be 6
life. That could just be it too, just the sheer amount of clicks.
Yeah.
So I think people are just naturally turned off from this online. But
yeah.
A lot of pauper people like playing toolboxes.
And you can take liberties in paper, like reordering your graveyard to have all creatures on this side and all non-creatures on that side. And I know you're not supposed to, but people do it in paper. And
are we not allowed to mess with our graveyard? Are there graveyard cards like that in this format?
I think Spinning Darkness is exile the top 3 black cards out of your graveyard, and you can do something.
Well, then, yeah, technically we're not allowed to mess with our graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, anything else in the creature package here that you want to kind of talk about? Before we move to the sideboard?
Yeah, this is just a little bit different than other decks that I've seen like this, but it's nothing amazingly different. Like, I've seen people play like Rhizome Lurcher and stuff like that, but it's just kind of...
I think there's room for flex, but it's got the core there. Like,
yeah,
you know, if you got the Brown Scales, you've got the Grave Scrabblers, you've got the core of the deck. The Fume Spitters are sort of universal.
Yeah, the only weird things are like sometimes people don't play the Wickerbow Elder or the Perilous Mirror.
Yeah, there's room for flexibility with the deck outside of, you know, its core. In the sideboard, though, we've got a whole bunch more 1-ofs and a couple 2-ofs. We've got 2 Caustic Caterpillars, 1 Chainer's Edict, 1 Crypt Rat, 1 Deadweight, 1 Death's Head Buzzard, which is 1 black for a 2/1 flying creature. When it dies, all creatures get -1/-1 till the end of turn. I actually knew this card. Cool.
I didn't know this card. It was in Vintage Masters as a common. It was printed before that as a common too. But that seems like a powerful effect for a card I don't know.
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't know it. Faceless Butcher, which is a 2/3 for 2 black. When it comes into play, remove target creature other than Faceless Butcher from the game. When Faceless Butcher leaves play, return the removed card to play under its owner's control. 2 different paragraphs, 2 different triggers. This is not the new way this works, this is the old way it works. So You play your Faceless Butcher, you target something, you sack it to your Carrion Feeder. Or I guess your Thought Picker Witch like also is a sack outlet.
That looks like Angler tech to me. That deck can't deal with a black creature with more than 2 toughness very easily. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, that's probably what it's there for. 1 Fairy Macabre, 1 Gnaw to the Bone to complement the one in the main deck, 1 Mesmeric Fiend, which is the same as a Faceless Butcher, but for ripping stuff out of your opponent's hand. So when it comes into play, it's a 1/1 for 2 mana, 1 in a black. You Thought Seize your opponent. You remove that card from the game under the Mesmeric Fiend. But again, 2 different triggers. So you target the card in their hand, or you target them with Mesmeric Fiend, sack the Mesmeric Fiend, look at their hand, and exile a card forever. 1 Penumbra Spider, 1 Raven's Crime, because sometimes you need to go off with Tilling Tree Folk and Raven's Crime. A 3rd Spore Frog, that seems redundant? Or do you just really need to make sure you have a Spore Frog in certain matchups?
I mean, by definition, it is redundant, but I think you're looking for redundancy in some matchups.
Okay. Yeah, that was kind of my question. And then the last card is 1 Thorn of the Black Rose.
That one's
interesting.
I mean, I can totally see it coming in sometimes. It's just, ooh.
Yeah. Because that is sort of one thing that I found when I played this deck is like, you can run out of gas pretty quickly. Especially if you can't find a Tortured Existence. It's just really easy to run out of fuel sometimes. So having a good way to help refuel your hand, especially if you're dredging a bunch and are still like trying to get your engine going and you're just dredging to try to get there. Plus, I guess like having extra instances of dredge.
Man, my curiosity is just like off the charts right now of like, we only got the top 8. I want to see what a top 32 looked like, because I just want to see the environment in which a meta looks like this instead of what we have online.
Yeah, I would love to see even the top 16.
I don't know how popular Burn would have to be. I would assume Boggles is something that both of these decks would be decent against. I have no idea what this would look like.
I would imagine that it would look similar to the Pauper Challenge. What was it? The Pauper thing at GP Vegas that you top 8'd?
Oh,
what was that event called?
I think it was just the Pauper Challenge.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, I would imagine it would
for this August for the next Vegas event.
Yeah. Yeah. Vegas!
But I saw there was way more graveyard decks than normal, and there was a lot of Delver, but that was when there was tons and tons of Delver. Yeah. Stompy, I guess there was a lot of Stompy.
I do remember that. But I also remember Tortured Existence being like the deck we saw the most of. Yeah. Like we couldn't move like 2 or 3 seats without seeing Tortured Existence. It was kind of the same with Delver too. Like I remember playing a match where I was playing Delver, my opponent was playing Delver, and the 2 people next to me were both having a Delver mirror. Like the person to my right and the person to my left, they were both playing Delver, and it was just like 6 of us. And then I just remember seeing tons of Tortured Existence mirrors and just thinking. And
there was only like a couple of Elves people.
There were, and somehow they always got paired. We saw the Elf mirror too. It was just like, oh, this is the best Magic I've ever played, and me and you were just like, that looks awful. Yeah. Ew. Anyway, any other thoughts on Tortured Existence?
This and the other deck would be good against aggro decks so far, so maybe they're beating down on aggro.
Maybe.
Okay, 6th place, Oops All Instance by Kevin Keys.
Stephen Keys. Did I write?
Man, my eye strain today is off the chart, so I'm going to just misread things left and right. I'm sorry. It's Stephen Keys. Okay.
Oops,
But
all
oops all
instance.
instance though. Without reading this, this is it's not the devious cover deck. Devious cover up deck, is it?
No, it's a brew. Let's just go through the deck. So for lands, 22 lands, 14 islands, 3 lonely sandbar, 4 quicksand, which is a colorless land that you can tap and sacrifice. Target attacking creature without flying gets -1/-2 until the end of turn. 1 radiant fountain, 12 creatures, 4 pestermite, 4 sentinels of Glenalendra, 4 spell stutter sprites, 2 spire golems. So the only thing the only things in this deck that don't have instant speed are the 2 spire golems and like the lands. So pestermite, I think we all know what that is, especially if you played Modern. Sentinels of Glenalendra. Do you know what that one is, Sean?
Is that the 2/3 with flash and flying?
That's exactly what it is, for 4 mana. And it's a fairy. And then Spell Stutter Sprite, you know.
Whoa.
Used to be the queen of this format, but the zombie fish has taken the throne from her.
Yeah.
Gurmag Angler, you know, waddled its way or whatever zombie fishes do into the fairy forest, and
they just literally sit in a pool, and like sometimes they lay on their side and the other person takes 5 damage.
He just rolls over onto people. Oh gosh. All right, instant sorceries. 4 accumulated knowledge, 2 condescend, 4 counterspell, 4 exclude, 4 force spike, 4 repulse, 4 think twice.
Force spike, huh?
Yeah, and repulse is an interesting one too. It is 2 and a blue. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Draw a card.
That is one I've had my eye on. Of like, can I get this to work? And it feels like everything besides angler decks, it would just be clunky.
Really awful. I almost think that this could be Vapor Snag, but I don't know. Like maybe the draw card is really important. Like
I don't think it could be Vapor Snag. I think you're trying to grind too hard in this deck and 1-for-1 too many times to like really want to.
But you don't like having
tempo.
You don't like having Vapor Snag with Spell Stutter Sprite either. Like there's that added synergy.
Well, I mean, I would do Snap, of course, before I would do
Vapor Snag,
so I can like snap and step and then think twice or whatever.
Sure. So do you think Repulse, having the draw card and an extra mana, would be better than Snap?
I do
in this deck
in something like this, because you're trying to grind. This is your catch up spell. It's not your stay ahead spell, so it can be a little bit more expensive.
Okay. And this is the other card that was kind of contentious. Why is Steven playing Force Spike in a format with Daze?
He has 4 mana spells, and he has Spire Golems.
He just does not want to be returning islands to his hand?
I think that cost is too high. I mean, there's no gushes in here.
No, there's no gushes either.
Yeah, the Spire Golems, his Pestermites cost 3 themselves. Like, to play anything of real impact on the game, if you're trying to cast a Repulse and another card in a turn, you can't be returning your islands. So that's, of course, like the first thing I think most people would try to add, but I like the way this deck is set up.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously had great success with it.
Yeah.
Cool. Sideboard, 2 Annul, 1 Boomerang, 1 Curfew, 3 Dispel, 1 Fairy Macabre, 3 Gutshot, 4 Hydroblast.
I think this is pretty standard for a mono blue deck. This is virtually identical to what a mono blue Delver deck looks like.
Yeah, I agree. I like the Curfew, honestly. I like that a lot. I think that's really good in Gurmag matchups, Angler matchups.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
I would imagine that you could like deal with Augurs pretty well between Force Spike, Spell Stutter Sprites, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like you could keep that kind of stuff off the board pretty easily. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe
I think that's too big of a risk that it won't. Like, your floor is too low there. I would go for the Boomerang, the Dispels, and I'd call that a day.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're probably right.
I do like having access to that many dispels. I don't know if I said that. I like this deck. This is something I would actually try out. I like the whole blue deck that's not trying to go with the gush package
Yeah.
motif.
One thing I will say about Repulse is it fits in really well with Pestermite and Sentinels of Glenalendra. So you've got Repulse, you've got Exclude, and it's just like you've got all these really powerful instants that you can hold up your mana for. And then, if your opponent doesn't really do anything, you slam Pestermite on their end step.
Mm-hmm.
Or you slam Sentinels on their end step. And so, like, having the 3 mana for Repulse isn't actually as much of a drawback as it might look like.
Not to mention how well this deck is going to be placed against, like, Burn and I think even, like, Boggles. Like, just decks that require you to resolve key spells. It's going to be way better than even most of our counterspell decks that exist right now are.
Well, it's got so many more counterspells between Force Spike, Counterspell in the main deck, even Exclude to an extent. That card's a little clunkier, but it can get some stuff, and then Spell Surge Sprite. And then it sideboards into 3 Dispels and 4 Hydroblasts.
Yeah, that's just an immovable wall for a Burn player.
Yeah. Speaking of Burn,
yeah,
5th place, Josh Rose with Burn. 18 Mountains, 4 GHITU LAVARUNNER, 4 THERMO-ALCHEMIST, 4 Chain Lightning, 4 Fireblast, 4 Lava Spike, 4 Lightning Bolt, 4 Rift Bolt, 4 Searing Blaze, 2 Shard Volley. So, pretty standard, but then he has 4 copies of Skewer the Critics. Mm-hmm. And I want to get your opinion on this card. 4 Curse of the Pierced Heart, and that rounds out the main deck. So, what do you think about Skewer the Critics?
I still haven't played with it. I don't know what to say. I'm trying to see what it's replacing.
Needle Drop?
It is replacing Needle Drop. Yikes. I don't know if I like that, but it does. I don't know. I'm just going to stick with I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
I was never a big fan of Needle Drop to begin with.
Really?
Yeah. I think that I like having more bolts, but that's just me. This card's good against Spellstutter Sprite. It costs 3 mana, even if you're costing it for Spectacle. So I guess that's like a plus in its favor. I don't know. I mean, between Thermo-Alchemist and Curse of the Pierced Heart, that being just 8 permanent ways so that when you top deck this card late, it still just costs 1 mana. Like that kind of helps it a lot.
I'm trying really hard to think because, like, I know in the counterspell matchups that I would rather have the Needle Drop, but I guess this is gonna get you mana screwed less often, and just so you have the damage up front. I don't think that your Thermo-Alchemists live long enough a lot of the time. Yeah, I'm still on I don't know.
Cool. Other than that, though, this is just like very run-of-the-mill Burn. And
yeah. The only other thing is in the sideboard, they're running 3 Pyroblasts, and I want to say that that's not as standard. Most people just skip the Pyroblasts altogether, and the vast majority of people don't play Pyroblasts in the side.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the sideboard then, if we're ready to move on from the main deck.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 Electrickery, 2 Flaring Pain, 2 Keldon Marauders, 4 Molten Rain, 3 Pyroblasts, like you said, 2 Smash to Smithereens.
So they cut back on Smash to Smithereens, which in a format full of those Boros Monarch players, I don't think I would cut back like that. And then there's no Martyr of Ashes in here.
What do you think about Keldon Marauders?
I really like Keldon Marauders. I think most people are actually on 4 in the sideboard.
Okay.
I think that there's something you don't mind playing against Delver. Like, there's a lot of matchups where you're like, my GHITU LAVARUNNERs will never connect. I need a replacement burn spell, and they're your replacement burn spell, since like they could potentially deal 5 damage, but most likely they're gonna eat some kind of resource and do 2.
Which still seems great. It seems better than GHITU LAVARUNNER that might never get through an Augur Bolus.
Yeah, also against that same, what's it called? Boros matchup. Like, there's just so many blockers in that deck that you're not going to be able to deal with. So it comes in a lot. I like that card.
Okay, sweet. Should we move on then to 4th place?
Yes.
Blue Black Delver by William Yoder. So 1 Ash Barrens, 3 Evolving Wild, 8 Snow-Covered Islands, 2 Snow-Covered Swamps, 3 Terramorphic Expanse. I guess if you play Snow-Covered Islands, someone might think you're crazy and still playing Scred Delver, but more than likely they're going to just think you're Blue Black Delver and you're playing Snow-Covered Islands to try to get percentage points.
Yeah.
That's what I would think.
I don't think it, like, the point that this format is at, it's getting more and more to be aesthetic. Like, even the, like, 0.01% that you were getting before is just a fraction of that.
And it's not even hard to, like, they go Snow-Covered Island Delver. In my head, I'm like, okay, they could possibly be Scred, but I'm still definitely going to play around Days and Foil.
Yeah.
Until I know for sure. Like, because it's not hard to just play around all possibilities of Delver. And, like, I don't know, it's not going to influence your turn 1 play that much unless your turn 1 play is like basic Mountain Bolt to the Delver, and you're like, okay, well, maybe I do need to think about Days, you know, but I'm still just going to play around Days until I see the Mountain.
And they could also be, you know, even if it's not, they could also just be mono blue.
Yeah,
they could just be situation. I know that I play against a lot of people that'll, you know, turn 1 land Delver or a cantrip, and then turn 2 they put out their Evolving Wilds, and I'm still kind of in the dark there. And I'll continue playing around Days, and then if they ever show that they're not, if they're the lesser Delver, the blue-red Delver.
It makes me so sad to hear you say that. But I know it's true.
Like, say I'm playing Burn, I just pop it into the fastest gear I can do and just, oh, sweet, no Days. And just, like, gun it.
So, like, I think, honestly, the only deck that's actually gaining percentage points out of this is Scred Delver. Because I think people are still, like I said, even if they see Snow-Covered Island, they are still going to play around Days. They're still going to play around Foil. They're still going to, like, you know, assume that those cards are there.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, having Snow-Covered Island in your Blue-Black Delver deck doesn't do anything because people are still going to play like your Blue-Black Delver until you prove them otherwise. So the only deck that gains from this is Scred Delver because they don't have Dazes. And you're just, like, playing around Days against the Dazeless deck. So I think that's kind of funny.
I mean, you can't lose percentage points by going Snow-Covereds. But
you don't lose, but you don't gain either, you know? And so it's just kind of like, if you don't want to waste, because they're like, online it's not as bad. They're like 39 cents online, but in paper they're like $253.
We've got the 13 creatures. We haven't gone over the creature package yet, right?
No, we've been talking about Snow-Covered Islands for the last 5 minutes.
Okay, so we've got 4 Augur of Bolas, 4 Delver of Secrets, 4 Gurmag Angler, and a single Stormbound Geist.
Yeah, and that's pretty stock at this point, having the one of Stormbound Geist in the main deck.
Yep. And then we've got 30 instants and sorceries, 4 Brainstorm, 2 Counterspell, 4 Daze, 1 Disfigure.
Which figure?
Disfigure. 3 Echoing Decay, 3 Foil, 3 Gitaxian Probe, 3 Gush, 4 Preordain, 2 Snuff Out, and 1 Spell Pierce.
I really like Spell Pierce. Less excited about Disfigure. I don't know. Maybe it's fine. Maybe 1 Disfigure in paper is fine. I think it's getting played in over the 3rd Snuff Out.
Yeah, I think I like it over the 3rd Snuff Out, just because I think in paper you're going to see more aggro matchups. Yeah. And I don't want to go up to 3 counterspells.
Yeah, definitely not. The Spell Pierce is interesting, though. I said I liked it, and then I looked at the deck list again and realized that it replaced the Dispel. And now I'm, like, less sure if I like it.
Yeah, it's like one or the other there.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I think I like Dispel more. I don't know. What kind of sorceries are we really worried about that Spell Pierce can handle?
Well, there's sorceries and enchantments. So anything in Boggles, and then the Curse of the Pierced Heart. Although your burn matchup's already good. There's, what do you call it? Journey to Nowhere. but that's
You
probably
know,
coming down
yeah.
when they have more mana anyway.
Yeah.
Any kind of like Rancor for other decks? I don't know. It is, you can counter random artifacts. That doesn't seem good.
I really think I'd rather be playing Dispel over the Spell Pierce.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I don't have much else to talk about this main deck. I mean, we talk about this every week.
Yeah.
This isn't very different. We talked about the only two major changes, which are one Disfigure, one Spell Pierce.
Yep. Let's run through the sideboard real quick so we can be done.
Okay.
We got 2 Annul, 1 Curse of Chains, 3 Dispel, 1 Gut Shot, 2 Hydroblast, 2 Nausea, 2 Relic of Progenitus, and 2 Stormbound Geists. That looks normally normal to me.
Yeah, the Gut Shot's a little interesting to me. I don't think that needs to even be there. I think that you're playing black. You have access to the best removal. You're not scraping the bottom of the barrel. You don't need Gut Shot. You can just play a better spell.
I assume you're bringing that in against like elves and tribe. I don't know either, but I guess, like, would you not, I don't know, is being free for 1 damage that much better than playing a single black for Disfigure? Just like having an extra Disfigure in your sideboard? I'm just thinking like Snuff Out.
Just have the 3rd Snuff Out in your sideboard?
Yeah, that's what I would go with.
Okay. The other one is 2 Hydroblasts. I feel like that's very little.
I think it's fine. That matchup is like, seriously, your burn matchup is so good.
Well, I think one of the things that make the burn matchup so good is boarding into a bunch of Hydroblasts in games 2 and 3.
Dispels work pretty close to as well. I don't know. Like,
yeah, I don't know.
Say your matchup goes from a 65% win rate. It's probably like,
it's not that high.
I have played 17 games with burn against that deck. Okay. I have won 30%. That's 70%. I was lowballing it.
But I mean, realistically, 17 is not a very big sample size either. So, like, over the course of a larger sample size, I bet it's closer to like 55.
My heart says this matchup is abysmal. Like, numbers be damned.
All right. That's Blue Black Delver, William Yoder. Congratulations. 3rd place, Jason Ames with Tron.
Okay, I wasn't expecting Tron, but
yeah. So lands: 1 Haunted Fengraf, 2 Remote Isle, 3 Shimmering Grotto, 2 Thornwood Falls, 1 Tranquil Cove, 2 Unknown Shores, 4 Urza's Power Plants, 8 Urza's Towers, and that's it.
Okay, perfect.
MTG top 8. Your deck list is broken.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's not playing any mines. He's just playing 8 towers.
You were there the time that I was sleepy and I was filling out a deck list and I was just copying from what was on my phone and I wrote 12 Tron lands on my on my thing to fill it out, and like we were like in the top 8 and like the judge walks over to me and was like, I could disqualify you for this, and I was like, are you gonna?
Are you
no. I was like, well, thank you. Do you want me to change it? Do you want to do a deck check? I promise that they're Tron lands and you know what I'm talking about. It was
like
funny.
From a strategic point, if you're gonna cut on one of them, you might as well add an extra 4 copies of the tower, right? Because that's the one that makes 3 mana relative to 2.
Not if you don't have the other one. Anyway, let's move on.
Oh, you're right.
So the creatures, this is also surprising. 1 Dinroba Horror, 3 Mnemonic Walls, 4 Muldrifter, 3 Seagate Oracle, and 4 Stonehorn Dignitary. Stonehorn Dignitary. So yeah. we're on Stonehorn Tron. It's easier to play in paper. That's for certain, because you can just be like, Ghostly Flicker these two. Okay, do it again, instead of having to run through everything. But I'm surprised this did this well, I guess. I mean, the top 8 is looking like they beat out a lot of aggro decks.
And I think that Stormhorn Dignitary was a big part of that. Like, I think that like this is probably what set this Tron deck apart from other Tron decks in that field. I mean, assuming they didn't all have Stonehorn Dignitary. I would imagine that this card was probably just the MVP of the tournament. Like locking them out of combat forever just to get your engine going, and then you just Dinrova or capsize them out of the game, and they just never get to kill you.
That's kind of what it's looking like, is that, you know, the paper field that we're used to seeing of that. I feel like they're more aggro. And these all exceed against that. So
yeah. Instants and sorceries.
Go ahead.
1 capsize, 1 condescend, 2 forbidden alchemy, 2 ghostly flicker, 3 moments peace, 2 mystical teachings, 1 prohibit, 1 pulse of marasa, and then rounding out the deck list, 4 expedition map, 4 prophetic prism.
2 pulse of marasa, but yes.
What did I say?
Just 1.
Oh.
I've already done that before, so no worries.
At least I didn't write 8 Urza's Towers on my website. Throwing shade.
The creator's like, at least I own a website. Brandon.
Let's be real, the creator of MTG Top 8 has no idea who we are.
Probably. I'm ready to move on to the sideboard of... because it's kind of weird. We've got 2 Circle of Protection blue, 2 Circle of Protection red, 1 Curse of Chains, 1 Dinrova Horror, 4 Hydroblast, 1 Moment's Peace, and 4 Pyroblast. So
are Circle of Protection red and blue necessary when you have 4 Pyroblast and 4 Hydroblast?
Circle of Protection red, yes.
Okay, because the burn matchup's that bad.
Yeah. Why not Sure Up? I mean, there's so much red in the format. Why not?
Yeah. Okay.
You have all the mana for it. The Circle of Protection blue, I'm kind of like, what? But I guess just mono blue Delver is that bad of a matchup?
Okay. Sure.
They have to resolve that spell every turn, so the blue deck gets another chance to counter it. That's what I have to think. And then you can just blink a ninja. I don't know. That's 2 is a lot.
It's interesting. Yeah, I don't have anything else for this deck list. Everything is pretty stock. Should we move on to second place?
Yes.
Cool. So second place, Joseph Harani on Familiars. So lands, 3 Ash Barrens, 4 Azorius Chancery, 2 Dimir Aqueduct, 2 islands, 1 Mortuary Mire, 2 plains, 4 snow-covered islands. That's weird. 2 Terramorphic Expanse. Why the heck are we playing 4 snow-covered islands and 2 islands?
They're just looking to find... I mean, it's the struggle is more real in paper to find those cards you want. Maybe he wants all of them to be island or snow-covereds, and he just hasn't got there. Or
you can play 6 islands until you get 6 snow-covered islands.
He doesn't wanna.
Okay. Creatures. 4 Gods, Pharaohs, Faithful. For anyone unfamiliar with this deck, because this one is kind of off the beaten path a bit, so I think we'll go through it a little more just for people.
Yeah.
God, Pharaohs, Faithful. White for a 0/4 creature. Whenever you cast a blue, black, or red spell, you gain 1 life. 3 Mnemonic Wall. We should all know what that is. 4 Mold Drifter. 1 Sage's Road Denizen, which is a 2/3 for 2 and a blue. Whenever another blue creature enters the battlefield under your control, target player puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. 3 Seagate Oracle. 4 Sunscape Familiar, which is a 0/3 wall. Green spells and blue spells you play cost 1 less to play. Instants and sorceries, we have 4 Deep Analysis, 3 Ghostly Flicker, 3 Ponder, 4 Preordain, 4 Snap, 3 Kirtar's Desire, and that rounds out the main deck.
Kirtar's Desire?
Yeah, it's a white for enchanted creature can't attack. And if you have Threshold, that creature can't block.
Okay, just like a cost-efficient pacifism.
Yeah, it's. I mean, so since this deck doesn't really care about getting creatures out of combat, because this deck's not really winning through combat, it doesn't need to play Journey to Nowhere to completely remove the creature from the battlefield. So why not go for the more cost-efficient play?
Yeah, I'm not used to them having any removal.
Yeah, this is a little different, but anyway, to kind of explain what this deck does, for those who don't know, your aim is to set up a Ghostly Flicker lock with Mnemonic Wall, and then either Sage's Row Denizen to mill your opponent, or God-PHARAOH'S Faithful to gain infinite life, and you use Snap. So you need the Ghostly Flicker gets back the Mnemonic Wall. I think you need 2 Mnemonic Walls, right, to go infinite? Because, or I guess you can so yeah, you need 2 Mnemonic Walls to go infinite and a Snap and a Ghostly Flicker. So you Ghostly Flicker your 2 walls, you get back your Snap and your Ghostly Flicker. You use Snap to untap 2 of your lands, or if you have a familiar in play, Snap's reduced to 1 mana, so you're netting mana as you go, and then you can generate infinite mana. So you can keep snapping, you can keep doing that infinite times. So you generate infinite mana, and then once you've generated infinite mana, you can start Ghostly Flickering, Mnemonic Wall, and Sage's Row Denizen to mill your opponent out of the game.
Yeah, and this deck does get really tricky. Of you can actually, if you have a Mnemonic Wall and then you've reduced your what's it called? Your Ghostly Flicker down to just cost a single blue, you can do your Mnemonic Wall and an island, and you can do that infinitely. So if you have that Sage's Row Denizen, if you don't have that Sage's Row Denizen, something happens to it and it's gone, you just flat attack your opponent with Muldrifters to win the game. You just bounce everything that they control, and it will stay bounced, and they can't deal with any of your creatures, and you just keep attacking that way.
And you can fall on just gaining infinite life
with
Sage's or God-PHARAOH'S Faithful. How do you gain whenever? Oh yeah, cast a blue-black spell. For some reason, I got really confused and thought it was when a blue, black, or red creature, but it's blue-black. You gain a life when you cast Ghostly Flicker. So you gain infinite life, and then you just, like you said, you can just snap them out of the game and just attack them with Ghostly or with Muldrifters. Deep Analysis is also a really big part of this engine too. Being able to cast the back side of it for 1 blue mana is really big game when you have the familiar in play and you're trying to go off. You can generate a bunch of mana with Snap, and then start chaining deep analyses and stuff like that.
People who still play this deck have been playing it forever, it feels like. And I think that's a thing that's more likely to happen in paper tournaments of I've owned a Pauper deck for 3 years now. Let me just bust out my Familiars deck. Or I guess this is a pretty updated list, so I don't know if that's the case here. But I feel like you're more likely to see those weird things like Teamertron. I don't know.
Well, it's a lot easier to play a deck that you know and own and just update it than it is to go buy a new deck and learn it. Let's be real. The cost of Pauper decks aren't really cheap anymore. Relative to a modern deck, they're obviously pennies, but building elves in paper, that's like $80. MTG Top 8 has this card listed at $85 on TCG Player.
Yeah, so $100 for a deck is kind of what you're looking at in Pauper now, instead of
not
40
a couple years ago where you'd spend $20 and have a deck in paper.
There are still decks like that. We looked at Zombies. That deck has got to be $10.
76.
What?
I don't know how. Card Kingdom has it listed at 38. TCG 76. CHAINER'S edicts are $3.
Really? They just got reprinted. Okay. I thought that those were cheap.
Okay, something's screwy. Card Kingdom is selling carrion feeders for $8? That cannot be right. All right, I don't know. Don't trust MTG Top 8 for anything. They've got their prices are funky. Someone's got 8 towers. Now Chainer's Edict. Card Kingdom's got Chainer's Edict for $1.79.
Yep.
Anyway, I don't know.
Now they're terrible.
I don't think that this is correct because the Card Kingdom price is $38, and that's under the Mize of carrion feeders being worth $8 on their website. So if you put them at what they're really worth, it's 8 times 4. 36. 32. It's 32.
Yeah, 32. You said 6, and I was just like, man.
I was so wrong. 32. That makes this deck $12 on Card Kingdom.
Okay, there we go. That's
so that's got to be where it's wrong. I don't know where this TCG average is coming from. I'm not seeing anything on TCG Player that should make it that expensive. Oh, Pestilence? Pestilence on TCG Player is $8 apparently, and it's 25 cents on Card Kingdom. Something is really wonky here. Yeah. All right. We're not a finance podcast. You can find decks for cheap on the cheap, but a lot of the more competitive decks are like over $40 to play. Like a play set of Battle Screeches are going to run you $20, $25.
Yeah,
you know, like
Dazes, Gushes.
Gushes are $8. Dazes are $4. Ponders, Preordains are like $4. All right.
Ready for number 1? Can I read this one?
We haven't talked about the sideboard yet.
Oh. I was done talking about this deck a while ago.
Too bad. 2 Aphid Wristwatcher, 3 Dispel, 2 Guard Duty, which is basically Kurtar's Wrath 5 and 6. Hydroblast, the 4th Kurtar's Wrath, and 4 Stonehorn Dignitary.
You mean Kurtar's Desire. So it's just more pacifism effects, yeah?
Oh, yeah, Kurtar's Desire, yeah. Okay. Guard Duty is 1 mana for enchanted creature has Defender.
Yeah.
So literally just Kurtar's Desire.
Seems good.
And then 4 Stone. So, I mean, yeah, this deck still just follows that theme of good against aggro. Cool. Now let's talk about number 1.
Yeah, and this is surprising seeing, I don't know. I'm surprised here. So the deck is Boggles by Max Forlini. I'm just going to get into it. We have 18 lands. We have 15 Forest and 3 Crumbling Vestige. So they're not messing around with any tap lands or any, like, really anything. They're just going straight for the Crumbling Vestige. No Ash Barrens. That's interesting to me.
Yeah, it seems to be, listening to Max Forlini talk about the deck when he did his deck tech for Channel Fireball, this seems to be ubiquitous now amongst the Boggles community, that Crumbling Vestige is just kind of the way to go. It's smooth for your mana base, so you're never like playing behind curve, but at the same time it still fixes your mana so you can afford to be a 2-color deck. So just, the 3 Crumbling Vestige, and then it goes alongside the Utopia Sprawls in the deck. But do you want to talk about the creatures and then the rest of the cards in the deck?
Okay, I'm not getting this deck. So we have 11 creatures. We have 4 Gladecover Scout, 4 Slippery Boggle, 1 Silhana Ledgewalker. That's the part that I'm surprised at, is that they cut down on Silhana Ledgewalkers. And then they've got 2 Heliod's Pilgrims. I don't know. That's surprising to me, since
it feels like they're trying to hedge more for the controlling matchups. I just don't know that you really need to. I think that if you're going to be a deck like Boggles, just be Boggles. Play 12 hexproof creatures and get them dead. Don't mess around with this stuff, because you don't really need a tutor. I guess, I don't know. I guess sometimes it's really important that you find Cartouche of Solidarity, or not, to make the 1/1 to protect you from an edict. But
okay,
I don't know.
I read the next card, and it makes more sense now. They've got 3 Commune with the Gods in their deck, so I guess that they cut 3 Ledgewalkers to play 3 Commune with the Gods, so that they, if they have a guy already, they can just turn that card in their hand into a better enchantment, rather than just having a guy when they already have 2 guys or something like that. But so
how does that tie in with Heliod's Pilgrim? Couldn't you just do 3 Silhana Ledgewalkers and 3 Commune with the Gods, or 4 Silhana Ledgewalkers and 2 Commune with the Gods? Do you still need the Heliod's Pilgrims to go with the Commune with the Gods?
I don't think that the Heliod's Pilgrim has anything to do with the Commune with the Gods. I think people just run Heliod's Pilgrim so that they can get one of the 8 spells that actually win the game. You have to find Ethereal Armor or Ancestral Mask or you're just not.
So Heliod's Pilgrim is just ubiquitous with Boggles decks, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Because it made the way you were talking about it made it sound like Heliod's Pilgrim was the weird card.
Well, I haven't been enjoying my Heliod's Pilgrims, so maybe I said something like that. But the real weird thing is that they cut.
You got me like really confused here.
Sorry.
You made it sound like they were cutting Ledgewalkers for Heliod's Pilgrims, and that's why I was like trying to figure out why they would be playing it.
Okay. There's a lot of thoughts going around in my mind because I've been playing this deck all week, and I don't like Heliod's Pilgrims right now.
Commune with the Gods is the weird card.
Commune with the Gods is the addition. Cutting on Silhana Ledgewalkers is also strange. For enchantments, they have 28, 4 Abundant Growth, 4 Ancestral Mask, 4 Armadillo Cloak, 1 Cartouche of Solidarity. So they have really cut down on the Cartouche of Solidarity because there's not as many edicts running around. They have 2 Cartouche of Strength, so they've gone up a Cartouche of Strength versus what we've been seeing.
I think that's totally reasonable in this meta. So,
really, what do you care that much about removing?
I mean, it probably helps you in the elf matchup, being able to deal with a problematic elf. I don't know. I think that like you said, edicts aren't good, and so I'd rather hedge against random creatures that could kill me than making sure I had a 1/1 to protect me from an edict that's going to do nothing.
Sure, but they have shaved down to 3 Rancor. Do you like a Cartouche of Strength over a Rancor?
Yeah, I don't know that I like a Cartouche of Solidarity over a Rancor.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I think it'd be okay to put Cartouche of Solidarity in your sideboard and just play 2 Cartouche of Strength for Rancor.
I think if you're taking it out of the main, you don't want it in the sideboard. Something like Young Wolf is going to do that job better. But it's like, I guess its job is, yes, it makes a guy, but it also gives you first strike, which is sometimes useful, and it's a toughness pumper for cheap.
Okay.
I don't know. There's a lot of cards in this deck that are actually feeling really bad lately. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm still learning. We'll see how I feel at the end of the month.
I don't know. Maybe this is fine because Cartouche does grant trample, Cartouche of Strength. Like maybe it's just okay to have 1, 2, and 3, of those cards.
And yeah, the Cartouches are also a little bit nice because they can only target your creature. So if there's an opposing standard bearer, it really smooths that out.
Mm-hmm.
To finish out the spells, we've got, I don't know if I've said, 4 Ethereal Armor, the 3 Rancor, 4 Utopia Sprawl, and then there are 2 Unbridled Growth. And Unbridled Growth is something that I'm messing around with, and it's felt really good. I think if you're cutting the number of tap lands that you're playing, that Unbridled Growth, which, if you're not familiar, it's the single green for an enchantment that allows a land to tap for any color of mana, and you can sacrifice the enchantment to draw a card. So it has the mode of like, okay, you've already got everything you're looking for. You're just looking to make sure that your Ancestral Mask is giant and to make some colored mana. Unbridled Growth is there for you. You've run out of, or you've run out of spells. You're looking for a creature or something. Sack your Unbridled Growth.
Yeah. Do you think that having 6 of those effects is necessary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you count Utopia Sprawl as one of those effects as well.
I don't, because it doesn't draw a card.
Oh, it doesn't draw a card, but
I'm just talking about Abundant Growth.
I'm talking about just mana fixing. Yeah, you need it there for the mana fixing.
You need it. You need 10 of those enchantments to fix your mana. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I didn't even know this card existed.
Yeah, there was a debate when it came up of like, does Boggles care?
Interesting.
People didn't know. So I think that it's...
I mean, this card is almost unplayable in Limited, and that would be the only place I would have ever touched a card like this. Aether Revolt Limited, so...
Well, you're not playing Boggles.
I didn't even know this card existed. Sideboard! 1 Dawn Charm, 2 Dispel, 3 Flaring Pain, 2 Gorilla Shaman, 2 Gut Shot, 2 Lifelink, 2 Mutagenic Growth, 1 Ray of Revelation, 2 Solano Ledgewalker.
I mean, it's not like the standard sideboard for this deck, but I think that it's doing a good job here. So, I'm just gonna kind of go down this list of. I think that there's a lot of cool choices here that are really well thought out. Dawn Charm. I'm gonna read that real quick, just to make sure.
1 and a white. Choose one. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn, or regenerate target creature, or counter target spell that targets you.
Okay, yeah. This has a lot of uses. If they are on some kind of edict deck, then you can counter their spell. It feels like they've had everything. Of like they've had Martyr of Ashes, they've had Electrickery, and I've been looking for something like this that like I can save my creature or regenerate it. That looks exactly like this. I actually quite like this.
Sweet.
And then the 2 dispels are really nice, so that if someone plays like a Tranquility, not a Tranquility, that's sorcery speed, Serene Heart or Leave No Trace, you can counter that. Electrickery, or just flat out counterspelling a counterspell so that you can actually get your big spell resolved. Dispel's really nice. 3 Flaring Pain is a lot. That's totally for the Boros matchup, though. I guess it's Boros and it's Tron, so
I think that it's almost 3 feels like it might just be a necessity for those matchups at this point. Like, especially if you're playing online.
Yeah.
I mean, with how big of a meta share that those 2 decks take up online, that might be something that you should be doing. In paper, maybe less so.
Well, I would still say that you're going to see a lot of Boros and a lot of Tron, so I think that that's something that would stay the same.
3? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then just word of advice, don't try to put Fling in this slot. Just don't.
Yeah, that seems really bad.
That's what all the deck lists that I was looking up were doing, and I was like, what? And then when I started playing it, I was like, it just keeps getting countered, or like I just don't feel safe. And then Flaring Pain, I get to keep my creature, so I'm gonna just.
Yeah, I mean, like, Fling is great against Boros when they can't counter your spell, but against Tron, it just seems awful.
They just Prismatic Strands it a second time or some crap like that.
Yeah, I guess that's a thing too. So,
and then they're going for the Gorilla Shaman. It's just good. That's the way you want to deal with artifacts.
It's just good.
Yeah, 2 Gut Shots. That's less than usual, so that's kind of standard. 1 Lifelink. That's fine. 1 Lifelink is good. And then Mutagenic Growth. This is for all of the Electrickery matchups. You just need to be able to save your creature the same turn that you're playing your spell. So that's very good. Ray of Revelation, that's for the mirror, I assume.
Destroy an enchantment, flashback for green, probably. And the second copy of Solana Ledgewalker.
Yeah, I'm glad that he's at least here somewhere. But yeah, Boggles won the tournament. Just to review, Boggles number 1, Familiars took 2nd, Tron took 3rd place, Blue Black Telver took 4th, Burn took 5th place, Oops Mostly Instance took 6th place, Tortured Existence took 7th place, and Zombies took 8th place. So not what we are used to seeing, and that got us excited. So any last thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, not really. I'm done talking.
Yeah, this has been a long one. You want to do the thing?
End times.
Yeah, I'll do the thing. Thank you, everyone, for listening. That was Common Knowledge, episode 60. 60.
Yeah, we're getting up there.
Yeah, we are. This is neat. Thank you guys for listening. I've said it before. Sean said it before. We just have the best listeners. You guys are awesome. You all are just great. Big thank you to our Patreon support as well. It means the world to us. And if any of you out there would like to join our Patreon, you can do so at patreon.com/common knowledge, where you will get access to the Common Coliseum videos. You'll be eligible for the monthly drawing to get a play set of all of our cards of the weeks signed, I guess.
Yeah.
Unless you tell. I give up. I don't have the mental energy to fight you on this one.
I'll keep fighting you on this one.
I know you will, and I just got to pick my battles, and this is just not a battle I really care that much about fighting. Because, at the end of the day, like, if they really don't want us to sign it, they can just say, hey, don't sign my cards when you send them. And I'm sure that would be like, cool. So I cede to you.
You know how much people on the internet are a fan of opt-out programs.
I don't get it.
You know how like if Instagram or something will be, or Twitter will be like, hey, we're gonna change your feed so that it's not chronological order, and we're just gonna make this change, and we've made the decision for you, or we're gonna automatically update your device in the middle of whatever you were trying to do, and it's automatically like that, and you have to like go into the settings and opt out of it. I don't know. People hate those.
I didn't even know it was an option. So
anyway, we've also got our graph on the Patreon of all of the stats for our Power Rankings episodes, which covers all of the challenges all year. We've got all of 2018 up there, and we're working on 2019. Really, we're trying to give back, but this is really, if you want to support us and you appreciate the time we're putting into this, we're giving this to you for free. And if you want to give back, and so that other people can enjoy it, and so that this keeps happening, please donate.
Yeah, become a Patrone. Become one of our Patreons. That bugs me. Do you ever listen to podcasts and then the host says our Patreons?
Yeah.
And I just want to like reach through my headphones and like punch his face. Just be like, no, they're patrons on Patreon. Anyway, if you would like to become one of our Patreons, you can do so. Patreon.com/common knowledge. We appreciate all our Patreons. We love our Patreons. We appreciate our Patreons. Go be a Patreon. If you would like to reach out to us, you can email us via email, an electronic letter. It's called an email. Big thank you to our sponsors, PureMTGO.com and EatGaming.com. Use that coupon code CCMTG10. Get yourself 10% off for all the sweet swag over there, and give our network a kickback. And lastly, if you'd like to find us on Twitter, you can find the show at CK Podcast MTG. You can find our Facebook group at Common Knowledge on the Facebooks. You can find me on Twitter at bclark_CK. And Sean, tell all the lovely listeners where they can find you on the interweb.
You can find me on Twitter at Lobbert8, Lobbert, and the number 8. And you can also find me on YouTube if you search for Lobbert. Though I haven't posted in a while.
Bye forever.
Bye.